Okay, so now that it's 3 past before we keep chatting here,
You've been
um,
nice enough.
welcome to this webinar about company vision versus product vision, where we learn what the difference is and what the benefits are. As I already mentioned, like please do use the chat and question function to ask your questions. We have 1 or 2 polls lined up for you to be interactive. Really, this whole thing lives from your willingness and interest in discussing. We're also very eager to hear your perspectives. And with this, Ines, take it away.
Thank you very much, Johannes. So the backdrop to this talk today is a few months ago, I wrote an article for Airfocus. I was asked to talk about clarify this contentious point of company vision versus product vision. And it took me quite a while. Because there's so much out there, as you probably know, how many results you get from Google. If you put company vision, product vision, whatever in this terms, and you get a lot of stuff. You get a lot of good stuff, you get a lot of noise. And so it's a little bit about what is the right thing for me? What you probably even have the same statements across different articles, and one being the example for the vision and the other one being the example of the mission. Well, that's internet for you. It's beauty and that's all its mess. So I went a little bit deeper into this topic. Used a bit of my experience, talked with experts as well, and also picked up on the best books, as you probably see behind here, my shelf. And I combined all of that, and I created this article. So the talk today, it's a bit of a deeper dive, because then it's obviously every time that you put something out there, you get more back and more feedback and people with questions. And so if you do have more questions, please, like Johannes was saying, use the questions piece. This is meant to be interactive. It's meant to be a conversation. I do have some slides prepared, but I guess that is a good point of the conversation is to stop me. Johannes said that he was going to be doing like a cat and introduced himself. Inês, sorry. But yeah, without delaying and stalling, it's a little bit about me. I've worked in a few different companies with a few different topologies. My background is design, marketing, and advertising. Most recently, I've also completed an MBA with Imperial College. I've also been an entrepreneur myself. And most of my product experience has been between startups from day one, most recently, or zero even, minus an idea. It's not even anything else. And the scale-up world, which is, as we know, a beautiful chaos. So this is a bit of my background. I've had a bit more detail in terms of the types of companies. I'll be pulling in some examples, so it'll be useful. That's why some logos are there. IoT, regulation technology, gambling, big data. So it's been a little bit of a mixed bag. And now with Founders Factory, being a product coach and venture coach is even more wild. So in the same week, I might be talking with someone who's doing a business in Web3 and someone who's trying to save the world by refurbishing homes. So, everything in the mix. Yes, sorry?
And everything in between.
Yes, absolutely. And different stages, different people. It's awesome. So I would like to know who's attending the session today, because I want to make sure that I cover all my bases, and I'm friends. I'm not just targeting product people. And I'm also chatting with potentially some designers out there, or some, who knows, CEOs. If you're really curious about this.
There should be a pop-up on your screen, and you can click it. Not talking to you, Inês. I like talking to all the attendees. Like a little pause that you can click. I'm gonna go engineering here.
Ooh, more people coming up. Ooh, I'd like to, if you said other, can you specify in the chat what other means? So next time we are better with our polls as well. Always taking feedback, always testing to learn as products and everyone else who contributes to the organization. By the way, when I say product, I'm being talking about product specific, and when I talk about product team, I'm talking and including about design, engineering, and everyone else in it, if that makes sense.
That does make sense. That does make sense. I do, though, as a product marketing manager, also feel included in the product team.
Well, as you should.
That's very interesting. I read a report like a couple of weeks ago that 30% of product marketing managers are actually attached to the product organization, and 70% are attached to the marketing organization. So you can be either as a product marketing manager. I mean, both is in the title.
Absolutely. It's you're just getting a also murky function of the organization, especially if you're in B2B, for example, into another very murky side of the organization. So you just get the worst of best worlds.
Yeah, that's my job basically. Okay, I think we have the results in.
Amazing. I am thrilled to see that we have so many product leaders today. That's really, really good. Welcome. And the product contributors, I think that, it was wide on purpose, in the sense that, it doesn't really matter if you're a product owner, product manager, you're a product coach, you're a product person who also needs to understand how this works in the background. But the main responsible for the whole product vision conversation is the product leader. Commercial, welcome. Engineering, oh, we care about you so much. Design, oh, thank you for joining.
Before I think I'm going to let you explain the product vision first, because you already mentioned something that I'm interested in, which is you said the product leader is the main responsible for the product vision, but still we usually believe in empowered teams, autonomous teams, and I'm very interested in how these two go together. But I let you explain.
There's content first. There's content, Johannes. All right, so thank you so much for sharing where you're coming from. It is very helpful and useful, because it's a lot easier to target all this content and to focus on how it impacts the different people, and I can tailor it for you. Some of the questions that we're going to have coming in will also help me tailor the conversation as we go, but again, do feel free to jump into questions and into comments. So I wanted to bring up the best example that I have of a vision as in the topic in general, because when we think about where does all come from, I like to think about the source of things. Even wherever they are right now, it's important to know where things came from. And when I think about a powerful vision, the first thing that came to mind was this one. I'm not sure how many people are familiar with Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., as in MLK, but he has, to me, one of the most powerful and strong visions. If I say the words, "I have a dream," I don't need to do the rest of the speech for you to know the power of his message, for you to know the power of emotions and the power of message that that speech had across a nation and internationally speaking, really. So I will ask you to keep in mind of that power, of that wholeness as we walk through this, because it will be potentially one of the most differentiating characteristics of the chat today. But being technical and being a product person, I like breaking things down. And so this is what I try to communicate here. And we start with, what makes a good vision. And we have as essentially a vision is a way to visualize how the future looks like. And it can be anything from a statement all the way to a video, really. The way it should be put together, as in aspirational yet believable. I mean, nothing in his message isn't believable or can be tangible. You can almost feel the spirit of people and the reality of that world. But also at the same time, it requires a lot of research and understanding of who the message is going to be spoken to and who needs to reach out. What are the things that are going to touch the people who are going to listen to the message? And ultimately, you need to be able to walk the talk. I mean, I can say until the cows come home that I'm this super ethical and amazing person, but if then your actions show otherwise, no one will believe you. And so these the beauty of this circles here is that they're all connected because they're all influence each other, and is the strength of their alignment that makes a really powerful vision. But at the end of the day, it has a purpose, right? People do these things and elaborate these messages because you need an inspiration source, you need a reason for people to unite and get together and focus. It has a very specific focus as well, so that it's easy for you to identify, almost like a target, and is meant to make you feel empowered. Like, it needs to make people feel like it's something that they can achieve. I can contribute to this. So thinking about the context of what we were thinking, the person who is putting the pamphlets together and distributing the pamphlets needs to be as included and as part of this vision as the person who's potentially coaching MLK to write the speech, right? Everyone is but also the empowerment aspect. You're not just one a cog. You are actively making a change. My first bomb of the day is probably around the fact that companies don't have visions. Companies have missions. And this might be a little bit, but the title said company vision versus product vision. Come on, Inês, you're cheating here. But actually, I think that this is the first step into finding clarity in this. I hope that you can still hear me. I had a bit of a hiccup with the connection.
Yes. Clearly understandable.
Exactly. People just started, I started to have people with pitchforks walking through my office.
Now that you told everybody where you are, yeah, they're on their way.
Hope so. Let's have a discussion. But the first step to clarify this, and I don't mean to use this distinction as for you to go away and tell the CEO, so actually Inês said in the meeting that we were in that this is all crap. No, this is meant to help you structure how to approach this. And the biggest contribution that it can give to the organization is breaking things down and to identify where you can make a difference and where you can contribute. So this is my first contribution, essentially. Whenever any company starts, it's to solve a problem or because there is an opportunity, right? And so you come as a solution to a problem, and you start aligning people around that solution. Get some experts, explore new markets, do your product market fit, and so you are on a mission to grow as a company and to have your strategy and your objectives and etc. But there is no instructions on what does that look like. There is no instructions on what is the higher aspiration for that business. Your mission is your boots on the ground, is you doing the stuff, is your kind of purpose, is you knowing which values you hold. And also you have the whole company side that you need to think about. You're included in an industry, you have a certain business setup, you have a certain set of people, and you have products. But all of this lives within the company and mission context. There are contexts to how you operate your business. You have your set of values and purpose and the people who you're solving problems for. Because at the end of the day, you could have all of that and not have a person to sell things to, and that would be very sad. But also going a little bit deeper into this and breaking this down, because one point of the article was a bit of I think there was a gap there in terms of understanding what exactly does this mean. And I hope that you can see in this tiny screen here. But, imagine this little circle. We started as a company mission. We went a level down and we talked about what are the different elements of this company mission. And now we're breaking it down, continuing to break it down and make it more tangible. So
I have a
within your
question.
purpose, yes, go for it.
So I understand this breaking down process. I want to ask again, like, why you think this is not a company vision, but it's a company mission instead. It's like what makes this more a mission and less of a vision? Because I mean, it's can be a provocative statement, right? Like your company only needs a mission, they don't need a vision. Like maybe you can just like say a sentence about this again before we dive into the details here for the vision ingredients and mission ingredients.
Yeah, absolutely. I do have a few slides just focusing on the vision piece, but I'm more than happy to jump the gun here. The essential difference is that you are targeted to go on and do something, but when you move on and you move forward, if you don't have a sense of direction, you just have the next goal, the next piece of strategy, the next time, you kind of lose your highlight of where you're headed. You also are missing the glue in between these parts, because all of this, if I go back to the previous slide, all of this needs to be connected. All of this needs to be connected towards a higher aspirational piece. Nowadays, especially with all the capacity that technology has to give us, if you're working within an organization that doesn't necessarily have a deeper understanding of the capacity of technology, it's all very wishy-washy. You then start arguing about underlying technology. You then start arguing about the difference in how you can get a subscription model, or who is the target, is the user, is the buyer, and all of this starts getting a little bit of confusion because you can't see it. You cannot see who is what is it that you're going to serve to whom, and how you're going to take over the market at the end of the day, because you cannot visualize it. It's a little bit show them before you tell them.
Okay.
And this is the power of having a vision. And to be very clear, the build up to this and the main reason why there is a bit of a separation here is mostly to do with the fact that if you have a lot of different visions and you contextualize everything under a vision, you are essentially falling into a trap of having too many focal points, having too many ultimate goals that you're trying to achieve, and then you either duplicating the message, which is not useful, or you're confusing the message. At the end of the day, you could say that, well, we have a sustainability vision, we have a brand vision, we have all the visions in the world, and then it just becomes pointless and useless. So
yeah, I had this happen to me. Like we have 6 products, all of them have a vision, and 6 like too many conflicting visions, not necessarily product visions, but too many conflicting visions, and you're like, so what's the real okay, thanks for the explanation.
Absolutely.
I think I get it.
No, absolutely, and we'll go into a bit more detail in a few slides, but this is the question that that is in people's minds normally around this. So you can see that at the same time, your products sit within the company context. You're not building products in the ether. You're not building products because you like to build products. I mean, part of it, yes, but you still have to do that in the context of an organization that has a specific set of cycles, that has a specific set of business model, a cost structure, a revenue streams. That sits within a certain organizational structure, which is, well, a team topology difference. You'll have very different leaderships that will have completely different impacts. I mean, we're now living. I was putting these slides together, and I was laughing at myself of how many times is it good to talk about this, our very live example of a leader coming into an organization and changing it massively and having such a huge impact.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, nobody does. I'm not going to give them the time and the space, but it is a business case. It is when people say this is all going to be used in MBAs to rest of times. This is,
Yeah.
you look at this and you think leadership, and a really small, tiny thread in the whole context of a company has such a big impact. But it's going to be the same. It's just probably slower if you start hiring the wrong people, because you don't have the context for what you're going to do in the future, right? In the same way that I've had this example, I'm sure that people in the audience had that example as well, being in a small organization, a scale up, and okay, I really want to be the best, and that's my goal as a company. So I'm going to hire the best, and the people that I'm going to hire is going to be from people from really large organizations. And so they come into your small organization and they're a bit lost. They start implementing processes left, right, and center, and keep thinking about how they used to do it in that organization that was probably 10 times larger than the organization where you're on, and start creating a lot of disruption and friction, and bring their own ideas. So all of this needs to be aligned. All of this needs to be connected. And the best way to connect it is using the next thing, like I was saying. So technology enables a multitude of options and ideas. Different people come with different ideas. So if you don't have them aligned in something that is tangible, in something that is visible, you're kind of creating a confusion for yourself. Right. Question: which industry do you work in? It would be really helpful. I started using some examples of mine in the past, but if you could use the message, the chat to talk a little bit about, are you in HR? Are you in B2B? Are you in B2C? What kind of products you're building? Give us a bit more illustration to what you're doing.
I'm happy to hear, Uyen, that you also work in SaaS.
It depends on which year we're talking about. Cybersecurity, love that, Romina. Cybersecurity is a very interesting one. It's incredible how it's so heavily regulated, as it should be. And you think about how do you keep being innovative and bringing discovery into something that it can be so heavily secured. Entertainment, Ingrid. Oh, I love that.
B2B
sounds like
banking.
Difficult stakeholders. Banking. Nice. Been there, done that. That's the example that I was just talking about might be useful for some of the people in on the chat. You'll have very clear, or not, depending on what is the side of banking that you're tackling on. Banking is a whole world. And you're also sitting you have dual challenge. Aside from the regulation, you also have to do some heavy on transformation. Healthcare, ooh, nice. Hannah, very different patients. Travel, good. Fintech. Banking, we have insurtech, we have a lot of people in the finances area, which is, I'm happy because a lot of the examples that I can bring into this can be very useful for people. B2B aviation, Adam, I feel like we need to speak. This sounds really cool. Marine and industrial, that's really nice. Agri-tech, oh, I love these contributions. This is amazing about product management and tech. You can literally say anything and I'll say, yep, I believe you. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I also have my own projection in my head about, when somebody says they're like in ed tech, a product manager in ed tech, I'm like, oh God, that must be so interesting.
Yeah, I'm feeling very jealous about
maybe
some
it's
of
also
them.
because I have like a vision in my head of what these people might or should be doing to get a connection to the topic of our presentation today.
Oh, absolutely. I need to be taking notes to make sure that I can bring some, bring these examples to life as well. Keep coming them in. Thank you so much for your contribution. And the main reason why I'm asking this, because now we need to talk about the big elephant in the room, our lovely product vision. So I kind of went ahead of myself and talked about the tangible aspect of things, but essentially that's what the product or your proposition, if you have a mix of product and services, which our friends in the finance side and insurtech side will be talking about, or even our entertainment friend, the product vision is how you show, it's like tangible, the show bit of show and tell, of how you get the company mission into customers' hands. So you have your objectives, your company secret sauce, you have your values, you have your purpose, but how you get things out there is through putting products in customers' hands, right? And adding value to them and to the organization. That is the main thing. And also, I would also challenge you here to think about all the companies that you know and actively go to the website. So earlier we were talking about how there's so much noise and so much information out there. And if you go to the company's website, what you'll see there is the About Us page is their mission, their purpose, their values. You'll not hear anything about vision. And so that kind of helps talking about this topic as well, as because there's proof and funds as well. What is a product vision for? So we talked about products and vision, but ultimately, instead of being this wishy-washy thing that lives in a Post-it somewhere or in a part of a canvas lost in a Miro board or a mural board, depending on what you use, it should actively have a part in helping you decide and prioritize your discovery initiatives. So for example, you might have this super ambitious vision. Well, you better start now in trying to understand how you're going to tackle that big vision with how discovery. Brilliant connection right there. When you think about your go-to-market strategy, so thinking again, and maybe it's helpful to use this slide here, you have the mission context, which gives you the values, the purpose, the target market, your personas, how you're going to go after these people and all that. You have your business model, because like, for example, someone who's targeting, let's say students, using your edtech example, Johannes, it's going to have a very different business model than if you were targeting professors, for example. Students are broke. And for example, maybe a subscription is not the most helpful thing for them. So if your vision aspires to tackle students in a specific area, and again, which students are we talking about? Are we talking about university students, or are we talking about primary school students? And you're actually targeting their parents. So all of this needs to be connected, and the product vision is what informs this. I'll go back to that. It's just to give a more visual indication of what I meant on the go-to-market strategy. It should also inform your talent decisions. If you are going through a bit of a replatforming, or for example, let's use banking. Before, banking systems used to operate in very specific language sets and used to be in-house. And now with open banking, you need a completely different subset of talent and a completely different people who be using your product in a very different way. So you need to make sure that if you have that vision of being completely open bank and serving people all over the world, you will need a very different talent than the people who are developing old school banking systems, where if you have a really long name, mine, you cannot use their forms because they used to pay by character, for example. There you go. Fact. We were talking about funny facts before we jumped on the session. your business model the same thing, and your North Star. I love how we keep as product people saying we need more objective information. We need to have goals. We need to have clear context to what we're doing. Then as soon as someone says, okay, let's focus on this, I know, no, I don't, I'm not really. Are you sure? But why? But why should we go? Just being facetious here.
Yes.
So I brought in a couple of interesting examples of good product vision. So we have one from 1922. I love how Mr. Ford keeps being brought up to being misquoted. So I actually took a snapshot from his actual book. And, he, at this point in time, don't forget, we were still being pulled by horses. And this gentleman over here has a very specific vision of what is this car that he's going to be building. It has to be large enough for a family, but small enough to be convenient. He has that aspirational stuff of every man who has a wage, 1922 women at work wasn't necessarily potentially a thing, maybe after the war. But there is a very clear image in your head of something that doesn't exist yet and that's going to become. It included the type of people that are going to be working at this factory. So very descriptive product vision of something that doesn't exist yet, something that only exists in Mr. Ford's mind. And he had a very clear vision of how this was going to happen. And this, as you can imagine, that it took a lot of innovation and it took a lot of discovery to get to, it has to be the best materials, but also has to be cheap. Go.
Yes.
Right? And then
when I'm through, everybody will be able to afford one.
Yes.
The man really has a purpose.
Yes, there you go. And then there's one more, a little bit more to this day and age. I think a few people might know Asana. They had a session and they shared the session on their vision. There's I use this example in the article, but the slide also has a link when you get the slides in your hands, because yes, the slides are going to be shared. Now, product vision and company mission, how does this work together? Without a company, this is what I was telling you about earlier, Johannes, and without a focus, remember the circle with all the different parts of what our company context and our mission context was providing us. Over time, and as you can see, each blue line defines a set of time, a cycle of the business. Things will fall out of shape because you don't have necessarily something to look up to. Once you introduce the product vision, you get to say, and you get to make decisions, you get to assess, okay, what have we done so far? Are we still in line? Are we not in line? We had this initiative here on the side. We hired that person. We set up this pricing model. Does this make sense towards the vision that we're trying to get to? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it can give space for something new or something else to happen. And that's also very fascinating, because there's a lot of examples in our industry, especially with some of my favorite operational side of things. Sometimes you build stuff for internal teams that actually become a very wealthy part of your product organization. And I'll bring an example later on about that. But this is essentially, at a very high level, a way for you to create your range, a way to create your goalposts. You define where you want to get most, and you define your context. That's how you combine the two together. That's how, like I was saying earlier, and brought this one earlier to justify or to support what I was saying earlier. This is how they operate together. Essentially, product vision it still needs to be the visualization of your product, your company mission. But what you are adding is a tangible future. You're showing people how that looks. You need to add that research, and that research will be not just going online, is talking with the experts. So if you are a technology company, you better be speaking with the techs, with our engineering friends who are on the call still and hopefully haven't dropped out, because this is boring.
I think I had a big aha moment now.
Yeah,
I
okay.
think it took me 15 minutes to grasp get my head around it, and I even read the article beforehand. So what you're trying to tell me is basically that a product manager's job is probably to like mostly look at the future description, like the tangible future, the research, the aspirational state, the storytelling behind it, while taking the whole company mission into like as a context to then formulate a very compelling product vision, right? Like, and the product vision being like this forward-looking statement for my product that helps me to like rein in everything around it. And then if I'm just taking another word like product strategies, then my steps to get to this future state, right? Like the initiatives on the way to get there. And that's why you call it the company mission and not like a vision, because it's more a statement of right now, like what are we doing right now, what are our values, what is our purpose, what's the target market, like all these kind of descriptive factors, because then they deliver a very good input towards formulating a product vision. And then I can also have multiple product visions next to each other because they all feed from this same company mission context, so they are also all connected while still staying individual. Like, stop me if I'm being wrong here.
No, so I'd actually challenge the multiple product vision angles, because if what you need to do as a product leader is actually align them, and it's not to say you determine that that's going to be the case and people just need to do it. It's all part of the conversation. I'll go into a bit more details, but I have a few slides on how you actually put this in motion. But the idea is that, again, if you take a step back and you think vision is the alignment purpose, if all product teams have a vision, that might kind of clash things a bit, right? It's going to be the job of the product leader to make sure that because obviously the product leader won't have as much detail as the team that is focused on doing a specific angle of the proposition. But at the same time, it's the job of the product leader to pull people up and to give the strategic context of the organization, the kind of mission aspect of the organization. So does the argument there is that that product team is inserted into a context, and making that product team aware of that context is the best help that the product leader can do at that stage.
Yes, makes sense. Yeah, makes total sense.
It's almost like what you're doing here, and we keep talking about context and constraints, right? You can, and this is how you empower teams. So the context is what is happening today, and who you are, why did you decide to set up this company in the first place? The market forces. Sometimes you don't know, like especially our friends in insurtechs, the bankings, the education, they're constantly being hit by new regulations that they need to know years in advance so they can prepare. Wars have an impact in how we develop products. Pandemics have an impact on how we develop products, right? All of this needs, it gives the organization, it's either going to be a hit or an opportunity to turn that into a success thing. And this is what the leadership team, a product specific, because it's a product vision, needs to help the teams with. Because sometimes, and I've spoken with some product folk who don't even know how churn is calculated in their organization, for example.
Yeah, you should know.
But it happens sometimes, like, oh, I'm just building products, I don't need to know about the financials, I don't need to know, because churn influences. And the reason why I brought up churn, to be very clear, yes, it is a KPI in your dashboard, but you need to understand what is the impact that will have to the organization, especially if you're a B2B customer. That is a bad thing for the board, for example.
Yeah, for sure.
So that doing that backwards, and understand how everything is connected, again, giving your context. For example, I like, when I join an organization, setting buckets in a mirror board. And as I speak with people, as I do more research about the context of the organization, I start building up on my buckets and start identifying, okay, this is industry information, this is our target customer. And then I start connecting the dots and identify, are these things aligned? Does that person speaking with that person? Maybe you should have a chat. And then use that because it's more than just, oh, really, I don't agree with what you're saying. It's not really the best tactic, I must say. But it's more about, so I've been building this thing here. Does this make sense to you? Do I have the right perspective? Do I have the right context? Am I missing anything? It's like, oh, actually, no, that's really right. I don't know why we're doing this. Or no, actually, you're missing this piece of information. And again, you grow on your bucket of context, which is super powerful.
Talking about these buckets, and then since there's also a question from Christine, I come back to my question from earlier, which is like, how do you get together like the product leader's job together with the product contributor jobs? So Christine's question is like, who you see owning the vision? Because there's so many people who want to contribute, who want to deliver context, who like want to own a bucket. Maybe you can talk a little bit about this. Like, who do you see owning this vision, and how do you get together this owner with like an autonomous team? Actually, it's two questions. Like maybe you can start with the first one, then I will ask the second one.
As an owner, definitely the product leader in the organization. At the same time, it's not, again, in the same way that you set out the vision as the ultimate goal. Your ultimate goal here is alignment, right? Your ultimate goal here is to make sure that everyone has a shared understanding of this vision. Everyone has a visual information of what that vision is. You'll be the facilitator. The product vision, the product leader is the facilitator, but the leadership in general, especially the CEO or founder, depending on what stage you are in your organization, definitely needs to have the ultimate ownership, because again, you always need to come back to the context.
And then I can like shoot the follow-up question is like, owning doesn't mean restrictive access to it, but probably means collaborative process or collaboration, like emotional involvement as well as like factual involvement, right?
It's the engine, right? What you're doing there is creating a shared understanding. It's like picking up on Sail's words of what of her presentation, super power presentation. I don't know if you had the chance to see it at Mind the Product conference a few weeks ago. Is that something like, I'm paraphrasing here, is that alignment without conversation is enforcement. Because what you're determining that this is a fact. If you really want alignment, you have people's heads need to be potentially repositioned. And if you don't talk about stuff, you don't create a shared understanding. You're just, nodding heads. It's like, did you understand? No. It's like coming out in that big presentation. This is our product vision. This is our company mission. Everyone leaves a presentation and you ask, do you know what
they do what they want.
They do what they want. It's like, oh, do you remember what they said? No, something about being the best at something.
Exactly. They're going to be leading. Yeah, I very much agree. Two things. Number one, like for all those people who are anxious to know how many slides are there still left, that's luckily not the point of our session. Like there's as many slides as we still need, but no need to see like the whole set. You might still be provided like all of the slides, even if we didn't check them out.
Yes.
And with this, to the next question, which is on the validity of product visions, or like the scope of a time scope of visions. The two people asked about this, like, how long do I need to enforce my product vision? How long is it valid for? What's the horizon that we're talking about? And I know the answer will include, it depends.
Not necessarily. I'd say that, again, if you're, let's moving on, I think that more than, we can stay here. There aren't that much slides, to be honest. It's mostly like breakdowns, more breakdowns. And so, yes, you'll have access to all of them. It's, the timeline should be something between 5 to 10 years. At the same time, technology is evolving at a faster pace than we've ever seen before. Our world is changing at a faster pace, and we are all experiencing uncertainty, right? Let's just call it out. It is what it is. So I would say that it's still important to have a vision. It's still important to set this is again one of the biggest difference between vision and goals, is that the goals are achievables and the vision is meant to adjust as the context grows as well. And so I would say that definitely keeping it in a tune that you can still help the organization to move forward, but also keep it on the sidelines. What are the parts that, because you've done your research, you've done your understanding, what are the parts that you need to keep an eye on that might change in the future, right? Is it your industry that might massively change? Is it your tech stack that might massively change? Like everyone is worried about. Thank you. Yes, we can move on, and you can answer to the poll as we are talking about this. But your organization size will also have an impact on how far ahead and how, more than how long in the future this vision has to go, it's almost how detailed this vision has to be. Because if you are a very small organization with 2 people, because you just started, you still need a product vision, even if you are not really sure where you're going, but you still have to have something to look up for. But it can be a post-it in that case, because there's only 2 of you. You can have that chat in a workshop in an afternoon and get it said and put it on the wall, and that's your vision. When you start hiring more people, when you need to expand on you identify product market fit, you expand on your industry and your business, you might want to have a look again and say, does this still make sense? Do we need to give a little bit more color? Do we need to tell about our story so far and tell about where we want to go in the future? So it's not that the vision changes ultimately, unless a few cases. Some of the slides at the end are some practical examples on when the vision and the company mission might be misaligned, because it might happen. But also it's you keeping things. You need a goal, you need a strategy, but you need something to look up for.
Yeah. Since you talked about unachievable or like a sense of achievability for a vision, how intangible do you think a vision can be? Like how lofty and how like, because it still needs to deliver context, right? Or it needs to like have this function of guard post, but as it's different than a goal, there also needs to be some sense of like it being further away. How do you think about this topic?
Mostly I think about it from again, it's all about all the pieces working together. Whenever we have this talk or these conversations where, oh, should I use this or that? Well, why not all? Why not all use all of your ammunition that you have in your space and see how they connect with each other? Same with the company mission. Your company mission will have goals. And some people like use BHAG, so big, hairy, audacious goals to set up the really long future. Okay, how does your vision sit on top of that? Can you be a little bit more, if you have to serve, I don't know, half of the world, wow, what kind of systems do you need to have put in place to do that? Okay, now let's start seeing a picture. Who are these people? How do they live on the day-to-day? It's a little bit of the story. This is where storytelling comes into place. Nobody likes to have a description of what they're seeing. People like making conclusions on themselves. And this is where, again, talking about, oh, my slides have popped up.
Oh yeah, I made you bigger because I thought the question on the slide is not so interesting. But since you're talking, I thought like.
Oh, I think that's so kind of you. Thank you, Johannes.
Zooming you in would be kind.
Zooming in. What is interesting here is to pick up on the storytelling piece. And if you think about how bored you are when the movie is just piecemealing you everything and you like to jump to your conclusions, this is when our friends within the design team are going to be our best friends. How to tell the story. This is when the marketing folk in the organization are going to be your best friends. How do I tell the story in a way that inspires people, in a way that moves everyone, while still delivering that tangibility? I still want to see how our user and how our customer is going to be using our products. Who is this person that I need to fall in love with and that I'm building products for? They're still people. If you're not using people, if you're not identifying how you're going to be changing people's lives, you're not doing a very good job with your mission. You need to have the people. You need to have the product represented there. Even if it's like an idea of the product, it doesn't have to be a screenshot because you don't have that yet. Don't forget, the one thing that is important that I see a few visions missing the mark is if you're setting that vision to be 20 years in the future, you need to change the context to be 20 years in the future. Like we did have hoverboards, but I'm not sure if the cars are going to be looking the same way that they look today. I'm not sure.
I don't care as long as they have hoverboards. That's fine. Yeah. I'm building my company on this.
Phones are still going to have tablets or going to be glass pieces. Everyone loves a bit of the glass transparency stuff. So, we need to combine. I like that that 51 to 100 is the winner, but there's a huge distribution between everything above and a little bit before. So I'm guessing that people make sure to comment stuff. Are you more, feels like the majority of people are kind of a scale up-ish piece and a few on more established businesses? Like you have big teams, that's good. There's a lot of people with different visualizations of what the future looks like that need a lot to be aligned.
Yeah. Talking about bigger organizations, there's one more question, which is that sometimes the product managers or the product management themselves don't have a seat on the table. And how does there need to be a change of culture to get a more shared, aligned vision if you're not even like part of the conversation?
It's definitely a challenging piece when you have a large organization, mostly because you don't have a seat at the table. So it's not the fact that it's a large organization, is when product people don't necessarily have a seat at the table. This is normally when the profile of the product person who's needs to be hired for this position needs to be more of a politician type of product person, because it's all going to be about the relationships that you create, the coffees, the side chats, making sure that you're in the right meetings, having the right conversations, but also a lot about connecting with other people. So this is the organization doesn't have a strong representation of product is probably because they don't understand the value of product, because they probably don't, they're still in a bit of a tech as a siloed thing that kind of needs to happen because we are growing and it sounds good, or because someone else told us to. And so the job of the product leader in that organization will mostly be about making themselves a good people's person, more than necessarily, let the development team continue working as they are. If there's things still at play, let them play, but do make sure that you invest on those relationships to make sure that you can, at least on an influence base, even if the title, it might not be necessarily the one that is going to get you the seat at the table, but at least, if you can have the side chats and learn as much as if you had the seat at the table.
Yeah. It's very interesting that it's more of a people answer than a process answer, right? Like get involved personally, like make yourself known rather than change the process for everybody to be involved. I like that.
Because then when you can change the process.
Yeah. Exactly.
Think about stages. It's about, your priorities. What is your priority right now? It might be your priorities, just follow the process and deliver some stuff. So then you can then prove that the way that you do stuff is better than way before. But in large organizations, that can be a bleep or a drop in the ocean. So you need to, again, look at that context. What is it telling you? What kind of organization are you working with?
Yeah. And with this, thank you very much, Inês, for enlightening us on product visions and why your company needs the mission and not the vision.
Have a look at the slides. If you have questions, drop me a line. There's more content there, especially around how you get this done. And good luck.
Until next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.